Hello and welcome back to the Battle Frontier podcast, where we aim to help you level up in your journey as a competitive Pokemon TCG player. I'm Aaron Curry, back with my co-host John Orgel, as always. And this week we'll be looking at the results from the Milwaukee Regional as well as the Belo Horizonte Regional that we totally forgot about when we were discussing the metagame last week. We'll go over the predictions that we had going into Milwaukee, and then we will talk about the new deck on the block. But before we get into all of those things, first, I got to check in with John. How was your weekend up there being an assistant head judge in Milwaukee?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I got in. I mean, I'm out of PTO. Like Worlds wiped me clean. We took a planned vacation right after Worlds, so I'm at 3 days left for the rest of the year. So that's not great. But I mean, the nice thing was it was Columbus Day on Monday, this past week, so I was able to just go up there Friday after work and then come back Monday without any real issues.
Sure.
But yeah, it was Milwaukee's cool. I mean, I really didn't get to explore the city too much, but I can get behind the ethos of like cheese and beer, you know. So I did drink some beer and I ate a good amount of cheese. I had like deep dish pizza one night, so that was pretty good. But the tournament was fun. I feel like this was my most successful foray into assistant head judging. I've definitely learned a lot the last couple times I've done it. I was able to put a lot of that to work. Like I was more prepared with just doing all the small things before the tournament started, as far as like assigning breaks and getting to know my team and being more prepared on what exactly I wanted each and every one of them to be doing throughout the tournament and all that stuff. So it
Mm-hmm.
went pretty smoothly. I had a more experienced team than I did in Pittsburgh, so that helped a lot. But you know, there was definitely still some challenges throughout the day. Um, I mean, regionals are like a pressure cooker, man. It shows up a lot of different ways. You have a lot of players, especially like later into the day one. You just get a lot of people with emotional like situations of nobody wants to sign the match slip, so you have
Oh,
to figure
really?
out. Oh yeah, like nobody wants to tie going into round 7, round 8 if they're
Oh,
on their winning end. And it's tough. Like if you're playing game 3 and time gets called and it's like turn 2 of your game 3 and the board states are irrelevant. Like there nobody's really taking a prize advantage. No one has a board state that definitively is going to win the game. It could just evolve into who can be the better arguer and
right. And
stuff
that's
like
when you
that.
just circle tie on the slip and you move on. Like I totally understand
Yeah.
from a competitor perspective. It sucks and it feels awful, but I mean, with the way that the current time rules are, you don't really have another option unless you're really just going to attempt to verbally bully your opponent until they submit to
No.
you.
And we as judges really had to be sensitive to the situations where somebody was either bullying or trying to like plead emotionally with their opponent to like I need this, like my child just needs me to win worlds, something stupid. And nothing like that happened obviously, but there were people being very like on the verge of tears or pleading with their opponent to like give them the win. And when you catch wind of that, like it's tough, but you have to be like firm and say, hey, like this game is not decided by how well you can emotionally appeal to your opponent. It's decided by how well you play. And
Hmm.
let's figure out how to determine who won the game based on that. So that's just like it's difficult to like navigate those situations a lot. Um, and they come up, and there were some tough ones where you know it was like I think round 7 or round 8, and I had a player that had a penalty call go against him where they would have either tied or he would have won. I think he would have won. No, he definitely would have won. Yeah, I remember the situation. He would have won because he had game in hand, but he restarted for like 2 cards or 3 cards, I forget. Um, got what he needed to attack with like a Blood Moon or Saluna to win the game, and then this was like I think after time had been called, and there was a judge table judging there, and the judge pointed out like, "Hey, what are those 2 cards off to the side?" And
Jeez.
so at some point, either that turn or the turn before, he had put his hand off to the side for a different action. I don't know, maybe like for recon directive or for something like that.
Hmm.
And didn't pick it back up. And so he was drawing extra cards with restart that he shouldn't have been able to draw.
Oh.
And that just like spiraled, like because before he could attack, before he could do anything, like he restarted. So you have to give him a 2-prize penalty. And of course, his opponent only has 2 prizes remaining. So he loses that game. And the whole time he's just like pleading with his opponent, like pleading with the judges, trying to say, "Oh, well, it's not a competitive advantage. I put my hand off to the side and didn't have access to those cards." Trying to use circular logic and like because I would have won without those cards, you can't give me a penalty or like it. Just grasping at straws. It felt like it's tough. Like I've been there as a player that like shuffles their hand into their deck on an Iono or like gets
Yeah.
end baited or something like that. It's brutal. It's tough. Like, and I get it. But like, you know, you can't draw extra cards off of restart.
No.
Like you just can't. And you gotta give them the penalties and they have to kind of face the consequences of their actions. And he came up to me later. I think he still made day two. Because I think he was I still saw him in the second part of the tournament, but he came up to me later and he's just like, "I'm sorry for the way I acted, but I was right," and like like a half apology, and I'm just like, "All right, man. Well, you know, I'm glad that you're handling it well, and good luck in the tournament." Kind of just moving it along, but yeah, we definitely saw a lot of that. I don't think it's. I mean, the end of time rules. It definitely feels like it's impacting things. If it's more severe or less severe, it's hard to say. I think it's just harder to like figure stuff out without the +3 after time's called. Like you can
Yeah.
usually maybe get a little further into it if you're trying to like figure out a gentleman's or something like that. But I don't know. We could get into it later as we talk about tie rate and stuff like that. But it doesn't feel like it's impacting that aspect of the tournament all that much. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I mean
Um,
the tie rate does not seem to have drastically climbed with the new rules, but I do 100% think it's affecting match outcomes.
yeah,
And I wonder, I think I saw a suggestion from somebody over the weekend that they said online, why didn't we just start with the 10-minute post time or the 10-minute overtime clock but keep +3 turns? And I understand also the counter argument for that is, well, what if somebody just monopolizes all the time on turns
yeah. We're
one
already seeing that even
or
with +1.
one or two, and then you just don't even get to turn three. And could happen. It could happen, but I have to imagine that it's a case by case thing. If you have an adequate number of properly trained judges involved, then theoretically it shouldn't be possible because not every single game is going to go to time. But I don't know. It just feels like it still would have been a better step than what we currently have. But I am also saying that from a totally outside third party perspective because I have not yet experienced this system.
Well, even I mean, it's weird. Even in like Top Cut, when you have 75 minutes, you still have games going
Oh, for
to
sure.
like
Well,
sudden death or
there
next advantage.
I think there's the reason for that though is we see a lot of times in Top Cut games players know that they have more time,
Yeah,
so they are not playing at as brisk of a pace. Like if you just watch stream matches from Swiss rounds versus Top Cut rounds, the players are much more relaxed and more methodical because they also understand, hey, it's a Top Cut round. If I make a mistake, there's going to be a severe penalty, and now I'm playing for higher stakes than I would have been earlier in the tournament. So it kind of
that's
goes
fair.
both ways. Like there's reasoning behind it, but they also are taking that extra time because they know it's available to them.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm not as a player, I get that, but as a judge, you're told like, well, there's a certain level of brisk pace you're expected to play with throughout the tournament, and I realize like that's hard to achieve with some more complicated decks, and you try to give and take, try to give players some leeway, and yeah, some players will definitely take that
Oh yeah.
and push it to an advantage. So that's tough. It's tough to kind of figure all that out, but you know, I had a good time. Day two, I kind of stayed near the bottom tables because there wasn't a lot of coverage down there, so it was like, well, I'll be the judge that helps with that. Because there were still people playing, and we still had a pretty big day too, like almost I think close to 400 players playing through the second day of Swiss. So that was pretty good. There was, I think, only one real issue where like uh there was a couple things. One was like a I don't really want to go into each and every call, but like there was definitely a translation issue that was tough because it was a player that only spoke Japanese.
Okay.
And it's not like an IC where you have the resources of like, oh, we have a judge on staff that is a translator or understands the TCG and all that. We had one, we tried our best, and we did have somebody on staff that spoke Japanese, but um, didn't play the TCG, and that's tough, when you're trying to just kind of have them. It was a he said, she said, or he said argument, and it's tough to get those kind of straight when the players don't speak the same language, and you're
Right.
cutting into extra time, and then yeah, just a lot of different factors that went into that one that were tough. So as you get higher into the judging aspect of it, it becomes less about um, rules knowledge and penalty application. It's still a lot of that, obviously, as an assistant head judge, but a lot of it is also just like at this point, it's customer service and managing staff for me. So that's kind of been a lot of stuff I've had to learn how to do better. Um, what to do to where I can set myself up for success and motivate my team, but also like give good feedback and make sure they're developing as judges and developing um, in areas where they're weaker, and even kind of being critical on myself and figuring that out for what I need to do to get better.
Hmm.
So that was good. It was tough. The last round was a little taxing, and then I kind of took it. I went over. I was tapped to do top 8 for stream again, so I got to do that again. That was good. I spotted for the asymmetrical top cut a little bit. Um, and then yeah, just bro, I don't know, man. Somebody out there doesn't like me all that much because I had to. It was a good match. Like it was Ian Robb versus what's his name? Uh,
Rowan?
Rowan. Yeah, thank you. And they're great players, honestly. Very talented, very very good players. But it was the Jelly Guardy mirror, and there are not many things that are at both times super stressful and super boring than the Jelly Guardian Mirror, because the whole time I'm doing this, I have to like be locked in on, all right, are they trying to play an item? Are they trying to play a tool under Jelly that they couldn't? Because you can't, it shuts off both items and tools. But just when it's the ability, when it's Oceanic Gloom, you can still attach tools and like all that kind of stuff. And then both of them are just using like 2 to 3 monkey dories a turn, so you're having to like make sure the dice manipulations are good, because sometimes it'll be like it's at 5 counters and you move it to 2, and then the player attacks for damage, and the pips have to like, it's so much, dude. And I just like having to like sit there like this, but then like there are multiple times in that match where it's been a long day. I've been on my feet all day. Like you finally sit down, you're watching Jelly Cardi. Like literally, there were turns where it was just like a monkey dory move damage and then attack, and then the other player would just move the damage back over with their monkey dory and attack with a Jellison, and it would just be like that for 2 or 3 turns, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh boy. So but it was good. There were some like really good moves that both players did throughout the match to like kind of like Ian set up a really nice turn game one where he put a lot of damage out on the something on the bench so that he could like potentially get a KO in case his guardy was knocked out, or I forget exactly all the stuff, but yeah, um, that was good. And then after that, I kind of just um, you know just
Sounds
left
like
for
you
the
were
day.
pretty, I was going to say, sounds like you were
Yeah,
pretty done mentally after that.
oh yeah, I was wiped out, and I had to do my evals for like my judges that I was working with.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it was a long day, both days. It gets to you. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know how anybody like I've been doing one a month.
The people that
I don't
go to
know how like
literally like
people,
every event.
yeah, like or even travel internationally to
Yeah.
like judge and like do 3 or 4 a month. Like, ugh. And Paperlight, good for them. Like they're the ones traveling to all of it and doing production. Um, yeah, I mean, it's like next month's gonna be brutal for some judges that have to do like Las Vegas and then the following
Go to
week go
Brazil.
to LAIC. Yeah. So Godspeed and good luck and props to them because I won't be there doing it, but um, respect for all the judges that do it. And I think that's just like kind of my takeaway as I get like more experienced in those different roles in the higher hierarchy of judging or whatever.
Sure.
You get a more appreciation for just all that goes into a tournament and all the different decisions that have to be made and how much all the judges really do care about tournament integrity and making sure players get out of there on time and making sure they all have a great experience, but also like, you know, that the best players are the ones that play the game the best, that kind of stuff instead of can argue the best or
Yeah.
can manipulate the clock the best or something like that. Like it's tough. Like you don't it,
And
yeah.
obviously you guys aren't going to catch all of that, and some of that will still
Yeah.
occur at the event. And there are several top players that I can think of who are very good at both of those things. And
Yeah.
in some sense, it is a skill in a sense, but it is also something that has become almost not integral, but just expected at these larger scale events to be a factor in at least some percentage of the games along the way throughout the course of the event.
Well, and then it's nothing new. I mean, you
No,
look at Jason Glasinski back in like 2012.
when he won with
Definitely.
Toad against Waylord. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's like almost the poster child for it where he doesn't win that set if there's not time rules. Like he
Right.
doesn't win that game in an untimed format. But like he's playing with that in mind and I think you have to if you're a player. You have to play with like, well, if it comes down to it, my deck can draw a prize card faster than my opponent. So if I go to sudden death, like, hey, I'm better positioned. And like that's the harsh reality of it. Like the fact that like we can't be at this venue till 10 a.m. the next day. We have to get out of there by 8. And
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
is what it is. So I don't know. That's enough of me.
I did have one more
Yeah,
question
go
though.
ahead. Go
So
ahead.
with it being such a long day, and obviously things get more stressful for everybody when you get into day two, were things made a little bit easier by the beta test that they put into place with the
Oh yeah.
online match reporting?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, just a kind of breaking news, if you will. I think this was the first time we've done it as a tournament, but for phase two, day two, we used paperless match reporting on Arcanine, which we've done in the past for the League Cups at regionals, and they still did that for this one. Going back to San Antonio last year. So now I've got to be on the cutting edge for the League Cup in San Antonio. That was the first one that we did that for, and now this is the first time we've done it at the regional level for 400 players.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I can tell, like I had no negative feedback from players. Some obviously needed a little bit of assistance, like they couldn't get their phone to load the pairings, but
Mm-hmm.
all it takes is one of the two players to load their phone. There were some new challenges that were presented as judges. Mainly, like we talked about, one of the harder things you have to do as a judge is kind of cajole players into signing their match slips to help move the tournament along. And normally if there's a physical match slip, you can kind of push it over with a pen and say like, here you
Mm-hmm.
go. Can you please fill out your match slip? But you just have to be a little bit more direct and say, hey, I guess have you guys filled out your match slip? Okay, can you do that real quick? All right, great, thank you, and just get a move on because players, like the chat after the match. And there wasn't. I mean, there was like some situations that came up where one player would kind of just hem and haw, and the other one didn't really want to make the decision for him, and all that kind of stuff. So, but that was like the same thing in like paper. That didn't change because it was digital reporting. That was the same case with paper. And I don't think there was any situations where, I mean, there might have been. I just didn't hear it, but like the situations where the players reported the match incorrectly or something like that
Okay.
weren't any different from what I saw from the League Cups or even from paper. Like I had players filling out paper slips and they would sign like it was two Davids and they didn't see their last name or something like that before they
Mm.
circled winner for their opponent. So just stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like it was detrimental. If anything, like the round times were substantially faster for
Oh,
turnover.
cool. Okay.
As far as I could tell, there were still some times where we had the 15-20 minute, but it was mostly just due to time
Time extensions.
extensions.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. From what I could tell, it wasn't because of like the reporting issues or anything like that, or like the one thing I could see was it might be. I mean, I don't know. Like you could argue like, oh well, it's easier to see like a paper slip and see if it's out on the table, or see if like players haven't brought it up when you're walking around. Like somebody might be carrying it slowly and talking to a friend or something like that. Whereas like if it's on the phone, you don't really necessarily know if they've reported their match or not just by that glance. So, but I think most players reported timely. So I'll have to ask, like, and kind of follow up with it. But from my perspective as an assistant head judge, I didn't have any players complaining about it or anybody come up to me and ask me too many questions. Everything was pretty straightforward, and it's a pretty easy system to use. You just like kind of click like who won, who lost, or if it's a tie, and then you go
Hmm.
down a little bit and like verify that, and then click submit. So not too hard.
Was that for Masters only though?
Yes, so they will
Okay.
still just use it for masters, kind of like they did at the cup, and then juniors and seniors will still paper
Gotcha.
slips.
Okay.
Um, and I think that'll probably be the case moving forward if they keep this going for the next few regionals, which I expect they will. Um, you know, that just juniors and seniors don't reliably always have a phone, or
Oh,
if
for sure. For sure.
most seniors do, I'd say at this point, but not all of them. So it's just easier to just do paper match slips. Um, but yeah, it was good. Yeah, I think the weird thing for me was I when I did stream judging for top eight, I was like, I'm used to having a match slip there to like run and
Uh,
have to take over to the hive really quick.
mhm.
And like the judge I was working with, Miguel, was like, "Oh, don't forget to fill it out on your phone." To the guy that won, um, and I like totally forgot about that because I was just my brain was kind of fried after all the Jelly Guardy mirror. But yeah, so that was a little interesting. Just trying to remember to do that, but yeah, it was good. I think from what I could tell and from what I saw, it was a great success for, and it should be the future moving forward for a lot of tournaments. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it evolves and if we, just stick with the system that they have used here with RK9 in the present and in a couple of past events, which kind of mirrors what they have in Japan, or if we might even progress toward the asynchronous pairing system that they utilized in China. Or I think they actually may have done it in Japan a couple of times as well. But
Yeah,
as
they
we get to
did.
these, larger and larger events where maybe we don't have a venue that can actually house that many players, you
Yeah,
may end up in a position where you're just hoping that, or you kind of have to send players in waves, in this asynchronous pairing system could be the solution to that as well.
yeah, we're not there yet, but they've definitely set up contingency plans for that to be the case.
For sure.
With the new tournament rule handbook made a mention of asynchronous pairings. So yeah, definitely different strategies to tackle the growing and the clamoring demand for Pokemon, which is cool. It's exciting. I mean, Vegas is going to be pretty wild. I think that'll probably be like close to 4,000 players at this point, or something like that. Like maybe not that big. I have to
Yeah,
look it up.
I know
Now,
that
now that I said that,
they
hmm?
reopened registration. I don't know how many more seats they had.
Oh geez, don't tell me that. Now I kind of want to go. Are you gonna go?
No, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I think we've got a baseball tournament that weekend.
All right. Well, let me look real quick while we're filming. See how how bad I want to go.
I think it might be full again, but I know it was
Okay.
reopened.
It's full. It's full.
Yeah, it's full again. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I don't need to.
I don't need to go.
I mean, I want to now, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, I don't know what the number is at now. Uh,
No, I can't check that either currently. And then just to double check, I went ahead and clicked on LAIC again, and it is unfortunately still sold out.
hmm,
No, but I figured we would have seen an announcement if they were going to open more seats.
yeah.
But in the meantime, just for myself for the past weekend, watched a lot of baseball, just with playoffs going on. Still caught the all the games that the Dodgers have participated in. So the end of the series against the Phillies was kind of a nail biter. I don't know if you caught the clip of how their last game against the Phillies ended.
Was
It
it the
was
pitcher threw an
Oh my
error?
god, it was
Yeah.
so ridiculous, man. He panicked. The ball he bobbles
Mm,
the ball as it this little dinky ground ball gets hit back to him, bobbles it and panics and goes to throw. His catcher is signaling him throw to first, throw to first, throw to first, and he throws 5 feet to his catcher's left. So he doesn't get the ball. The Dodgers score. The game ends, and he had an extra 4 seconds where he could have turned and made a clean out at first and stopped any runs from
that's
scoring.
rough.
It,
And I
it was
mean, I think I saw
brutal.
the reaction where he just like sinks and dies on the side and just
Oh yeah, no,
yeah.
visibly you could tell he was just done,
Oh
and
man, that's tough.
it's rough, very
Yeah,
rough.
baseball is brutal because you do nothing, you do nothing, you do nothing, and then like action, and then split second decision, and you just remember that as a fan and as a player for the rest of your life, like especially in playoffs, man. It's so brutal. But no, I saw a little bit, like, it's cool. We were in Milwaukee when the Brewers made it to the next round.
Yeah, you didn't. Did you get
Um,
to go to their? You didn't get to go to their game while you were up there.
no, I think it was like $200 a ticket, and I wasn't really inclined to. I
Okay,
mean, yeah, but
fair
I
enough.
saw we went to, was it Saturday? I think we went to like they had like a indoor marketplace where a bunch of different restaurants had set up, and like, of course, beer everywhere in Milwaukee. So I had a beer there, and the game was on, so I watched a little bit, but mostly just hung out with people. But
Yeah,
yeah, it was fun. Just a cool atmosphere. It's kind of rowdy, which is what it is.
it
But
seems par for the course.
yeah, you would think
I mean,
like,
I've never been to Milwaukee, but that just seems like the kind of atmosphere that's cultivated there. Sounds very much so just like a giant like frat party or big college town.
yeah, it definitely had that weird, like, everybody had Packers gear on when I was flying home, and I'm like, they didn't even, when they played like a day before, and like as the flight crew is going over the pre-flight announcements, they're like, and congratulations to the Packers for beating this team, and I'm like, okay, man, I guess that's what we care about more than anything here, so that's fair. Um, but no, it felt. I mean, again, I wish I had more time to explore. Maybe next time I'll try to save a little bit more PTO by the end of the year.
Yeah,
And we'll get a chance to. But
sure.
yeah, it'd be a cool place. It was beautiful weather in the fall, in October. A
Yeah,
little
this
bit
seems like
crisp.
a better time than what they had for the other event in Milwaukee earlier this year. Although I can't
Yeah,
imagine it was that bad in the spring either.
that was in May. Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, yeah, so early summer. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
probably okay. Milwaukee seems like it has decent weather pretty much year round, unless you go in the winter. Then it's probably awful.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's on the Great Lakes, so I'm sure the winters are not ideal. But
No,
anyways, yeah.
yeah,
So you didn't come here for the weather talk. You came here
no.
for Pokemon.
And then on Sunday, I was able to play in a league challenge,
Nice,
and
nice.
took the new Toast of the Town, the Mega Absol box, the Tord deck, out for a spin, and went undefeated there. Had a
Did you get
weird
the cards
Tom's.
I sent you so you could play it?
I have not. I have not.
Dude,
I
oh
did
my
already have the
gosh.
stuff,
All right.
um, but they might have been in the mail today. I honestly don't know. But I had a weird situation come up because it was a really low attendance thing because it was at like 7 p.m. on a Sunday.
Mm,
That um, there were only 6 players, and for whatever reason, the way that Tom broke it out, I was 2-0 going into round three. There was another guy that was 2-0 going into round three, and we didn't get paired together because of the way that other people. I think if we had been paired with each other and the two O2s had been paired with each other, the two guys in the middle who were 1-1 had already played. So they're
mm,
not allowed to play each other.
got
And
it.
so instead of taking the O2s and pairing them up with the 1-1s, Tom decides to take the two O's and pair them down into the 1-1s, which is just a very confusing system to me.
Yeah.
But I guess
Us
that was how
mortals are not to know the machinations of, the tournament
Thomas.
organizer
It's the mysterious
management
black
system.
box. We don't question how it works.
Yeah.
We just accept what it
We
does.
put things in and it spits out, the deep mystical truths that govern our universe. So,
It's
but I feel that. That's weird.
the deck felt pretty good though, and I think obviously it performed very well this weekend. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about it directly after this. I do think that as more people learn to play against the deck, its win rate will regulate itself and will normalize a bit. But just to pop a list up on the screen for anyone who maybe is living under a rock or did not at all pay attention to coverage of Milwaukee or Belo Horizonte this weekend, Tord Reklev had made a post last week talking about this idea that he had, or just saying that he had an idea and that he had to go to Milwaukee to play this deck because he had a deck in this format that he absolutely wanted to play. And it was something along the lines of, you won't discover your Zorro pods if you're not willing to play outside or think outside the box or something along those lines. And what that essentially meant, or what that translated to, was I have an attacking walls deck that utilizes a dark type so I can still use Monkey Dory. And it's a really cool deck in the sense that you have a lot of moving parts and they all serve specific purposes for specific matchups. And so my list was a little bit different from this. Like, I only played one Cornerstone because I knew nobody was playing Goldango, but I wasn't sure what other decks they were playing, so I wanted to have that contingency just in case.
Mhm.
I think that like some of my supporter and item counts were a little bit different too. And I didn't play this Tatsugiri because I just, from playing the deck earlier in the week after Tord had made his cryptic post, and this deck had essentially leaked on Twitter at some point on like Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was right after we finished recording our episode last week. I saw
Yeah.
an image of a version of this deck, and it was definitely different from this list as well. But I took that and put something into TCG Live and played some games with it and found what I liked, what I didn't like, and some of the stuff here is just really neat. Like 3 Monkey Dory is a really good number for a deck that's not a dedicated, I'm trying to get 3 into play every single game. I just want the option to put 3 into play. And taking a note from the Henry Chow list, I guess, from NAIC last year. We have TM Turbo Energize here, which in matchups where it is relevant, you can Turbo Energize to Monkey Dory. But otherwise, the big star of the show is Mega Absol EX, which is a card that I think a lot of people prior to this deck's introduction had really written off as just being, too slow. The card's never going to work. It doesn't have inbuilt energy acceleration. Needing 2 colored energy along with a colorless energy is just too much on a relatively frail 3 prize basic Pokemon, even though its attacks are phenomenal. Terminal Period, being able to one hit KO anything as long as it has exactly 6 counters on it, super great. And Claw of Darkness, being able to discard a chosen card from your opponent's hand, is also absolutely ridiculous. So Turbo Energize comes in really clutch with this deck, being able to accelerate those energies into play, and you have the perfect front line in the form of the Mega Kangaskhan, being able to use Run Errand to draw extra cards to set you up, and having 300 HP just makes the thing a massive wall that is very, very difficult for things to overcome, especially extremely early on in the game. And so then, because the deck is all basics, you've got Penny. So when that Mega Kangaskhan takes a hit, if you aren't wanting to Adrenabrain damage over to your opponent's board, Penny just lets you scoop it out of play. That liability is no longer present on your field, and it frees up the precious board slots because this is a precious trolley deck. A lot of times you set your board at, some instance in early on in the game, and you need these pennies to manage your board state, make corrections to where you need your board to be throughout the game as you try to manipulate damage, deny prizes to your opponent, maybe get Pecharunt out of play because you don't need it anymore, but you want Latios in play instead as your means of kind of mobility for all of your Pokemon. And then you also just have a totally different mode where you forgo all of your Mega Pokemon and you're playing against Goldango. You don't want your 3 prizers in play. You just throw a Cornerstone active and say deal with it. And most Goldango lists can't. They throw a Soul Rock at you and you say, okay, I'll just Monkey Dory all that damage back over to you
Yeah.
and say Demolish again. And Goldango only plays so many boss, it becomes incredibly difficult for them to deal with Monkey Dory over the course of a long game. And they just outright, with Goldango Rocks builds, cannot deal with Cornerstone. Except for one build that I will highlight when we get into the results in Milwaukee later, that I think is somewhat innovative and also might be the way moving forward for Goldango. But then the last kind of mode or package for the deck is the Eviltal trapping strategy that it has access to. And we talked about this definitely at some point earlier on. But Petrarunt being able to subjugating chains Eviltal into your active spot provides you a means of just generating damage on your board while you are clutch locking whatever you want in the active spot, thanks to the 5 gust cards the deck plays. And you get to lock, say, Latias or Genesect or Lunatone as examples, while you passively build up extra damage in play that you then get to Adrenabrain over across to your opponent to set up your KOs down the road as the game becomes easier and easier for you. And then as the mitigation, like the one deck that can really kind of reach over the top of you would be either Charizard with Dust Noir or Dragapult with Dust Noir. And, thankfully, we finally have access to that promo Psyduck, assuming you can find one in the wild or want to fork over $20 on TCG Player.
It's crazy.
But just the damp ability preventing the Dust Noirs from KOing themselves. The deck, it all seems to make sense now that it's kind of in front of us, but it's something that definitely, I think, took some kind of outside the box thinking to arrive at as a concept. Like it's not a spoon fed or force fed archetype like what we see a lot of times, with the, well, just look at the loyal 3 Pokemon in general in Shrouded Fable, or
Pidgeot, Charizard, or
exactly,
Dragapult.
Pidgeot,
Any of those.
Charizard, Dragapult as a designated archetype, Ancient Box as a thing, um, Raging Bolt, Ceruledge with Brilliant Blender in the same set. Like there's just a lot of underused cards. I saw some statistics for this weekend that a lot of cards jumped up in usage rate thanks 100% to this deck seeing play, and those were Turbo Energize, Lively Stadium, and then Mist Energy coming back into play in a big way because the deck does play 2. I think every list I've seen this deck plays 2 Mist Energy, and I also think that it's probably the perfect number for the deck as well. So just a
Yeah.
lot of stuff here that's right, but I also think that it's flexible enough that we'll see some iteration on this deck moving forward as it will attempt to evolve with a metagame that now is forced to acknowledge its presence.
Yeah. It speaks a testament to Tord's capability to innovate in a lot of ways. Because, like, I mean, none of these cards are bad in a vacuum, but the interplay is definitely not like apparent, like you just said. So it definitely takes a lot of trial and error or just deep thought into, okay, how do I get an Absol deck to work? How do I make a Kangaskhan fit? And like, what do I need to do to prevent it from being knocked out? And what matchups does it help with? And what, all these different things you have to address when you're building a deck. Because like right now, we'll look at the results in a minute, but the meta game is so wide to where
Yeah.
you could play a different deck every round for 15 rounds, and like that wouldn't be unreasonable. So like you have to have not just answers for top meta decks, but you honestly need to have just a raw power, and like the Absol and the Kangaskhan definitely provide that. Both, Absol has an attack that just can deal with anything. Maybe not in the mirror. That might be one thing that's interesting, is the Mist Energy kind of
Yeah,
counters
the,
it, but
the mirror for this deck is really weird.
yeah, I can imagine. So I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it progresses from here. Because I mean, it's you can almost run Manga Kangaskhan as its own thing, just as a draw engine, and then like as a support Pokemon in some ways. But that can also attack. Um, it's colorless, so it's infinitely splashable. But it'll be interesting to see as we get more Mega Pokemon and as the format develops, like what this deck looks like 2 months from now.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we're getting a new set pretty soon, next month. So TCG Pocket levels of set introduction going on over here. So
No, thankfully that one's a good bit smaller, and
yeah, true.
I mean, I would say we will have Japan results to go off of, but we had Japan results to go off of before this regional, and this deck was nowhere to be seen over there throughout the
Right.
course of City Leagues or even at Champions League. So it was cool to see innovation coming through in a format that theoretically was solved going into it.
Yeah. I know that Tord does work with some Japanese players, and like
Right.
that was part of the brain trust, was some of it coming from Japan. So yeah, even like you said, like this didn't show up in the bigger tournaments in Japan, so it wasn't until very, very recently that we saw this develop, and that's exciting. Like I think that shows that this is a healthy game, that we're not just limited to what game designers may have, like we're not just limited to the archetypes that are like cut and dry what the game designers want. We're able to like mix and match, and as we get further and further into the metagame, you're able to see, you know, kind of box decks come up and more strategies develop that aren't inherently um, apparent. So that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, I think the thing that I like the most about the deck is just seeing cards from the Mega Evolution set actually be impactful,
For
which
sure.
we originally had feared would not be the case.
Yeah. And I
And
mean, truthfully, outside of this deck, we'll get into our predictions in a minute, but there wasn't a whole lot of new archetypes from
no,
the Mega Evolution set. So this was definitely
unfortunately.
carrying the torch for the set.
Yep. And since we went a little long in the tooth on the intro of the portion of the show, and then talking about a little bit more in depth about this deck, let's go ahead and take a break before we get into the results from the two tournaments this weekend, and take a pit stop over and hit up Blaine's Quiz Show now, and then we'll get into those results. So here we are with the latest, greatest, everyone's favorite Blaine's Quiz Show. And so if you are new to the show, how to play every week, John and I take turns asking each other three multiple choice questions. Each correct answer provides the wow. Each correct answer provides 1 point to whoever is answering the questions, and there is one universal hint available each week. Could be utilized in any one of the three questions. But if John chooses not to use the hint throughout the three questions that I'm asking him this week, he will earn a bonus point to increase his lead in our current scores of 8-4. So let's see how John fares with this week's topic of national championships. Now, fair warning and kind of a cop out for myself. I think my questions this week are going to be a little bit easy on John, given the fact that I had totally forgotten that I was supposed to be preparing questions. So I had to do it about 5 minutes before we started officially recording the podcast. So when John gets 4 points this week, I just want an asterisk on that for the rest of the season.
Now that you've like teed it up for me, I'm sure I'm just gonna like bomb out. So we'll see how it goes.
Cool. Now that we're both supremely confident in the results
Yep.
of this, let's hit up question one. So I would like to know which archetype earned the most limitless points from national championships in the 2012 to 2013 season. And your options are Plasma, Excelgor decks, and notably that does include the Excelgor like Lock decks or Gothitelle Excelgor, Darkrai, or Blastoise.
Hmm. I'm trying to remember when Plasma was, because
So this is TDK Plasma,
okay, yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
just
So
for
what
clarity
format?
purposes.
Can you? Is it too much to ask what format this was?
Um, oh my goodness, I cannot remember which set. It should be, I believe, Boundaries Crossed through Plasma Freeze.
Okay, so TDK. Yeah, yeah. Well, I definitely have to think it's Plasma. I mean, Selgor won, if I remember correctly. Like beat Ryan Sablos in the finals, to win. But Plasma definitely had the strongest like contingent. Was the hot new deck, was the powerhouse of this format. Darkrai was a little long in the tooth, and Blastoise wasn't bad, but definitely was falling off by this point. So I'm definitely gonna just lock in Plasma.
Okay, John, and you are absolutely correct. I um initially when I was looking up the stats for this one in particular, I actually thought that it would be the Excelgor decks. Offhand, I had to go back and look at the results to kind of double take and fact check it because I know that of if you look at top 8 for this event, there were more Excelgor decks than there were Plasma decks. But just as you go further and further down the list, just the raw number of people that played Plasma at the national championships this year were kind of overwhelming compared to the Gothitelle players.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean Gothitelle was like the rogue deck that did really, really well. Or like not
Yeah.
the rogue, like it was a known deck, but it kind of resurfaced with the technology of like plasma shield, right?
No, it was
Um
literally just Floatstone. That was the
oh
that
yeah,
was
I
the new
guess
card for the deck.
I mean it's a good card, so
Oh,
I get
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. But there you go, 1 point so far. Let's hit up question two. So, each of the following players made top four at the final U.S. National Championship in 2016. And I just want to know who was the winner.
Oh
And your
goodness,
choices are Marcos Garcia, Paul Johnston, Nick Robinson, or Liam Williams.
this is tough. I mean, I played in this era. This was Zoroark, if I'm not mistaken. Um, with like Night March. Night March was 2015. This was a little further on into the GX era. Might have been like Buzzwole, Lycanroc, I think. Um, I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna need a hint on this one. I don't remember everybody
Okay.
that's on this.
I will offer you one of two hints, and I
Okay.
will let you choose which one you want. Would you like to know the winning deck, or would you like to know a sampling of player placement?
Sampling. What do you mean by sampling of player placement? Like
I'm just going to
what?
give you that category and let you choose which hint you want.
Fair enough. I don't think the winning deck will get me there, so I'll just go with the second one.
Okay. So Paul Johnston and Liam Williams were third and fourth place, respectively.
Okay. All right. I recognize the name Nick Robinson, but he might have been like the senior champion. I think he's a little younger, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm gonna go with Marcos Garcia. I don't recognize the name, but like national champions don't always have like a long shelf life. I'll say like they don't
Yeah,
always
fair enough.
kind of yeah stay in the top forever.
Okay, so Marcos Garcia locked in. The answer was actually Nick
Ah,
Robinson with
okay,
Vespiquen Night March.
okay,
So
yeah,
this was at the tail end of the kind of XY era of things. Seismitoad was still around, which is what
mm.
Paul was playing, but we also had kind of Darkrai Dragons, which is what Liam was playing. So things were a little bit all over the place as we were approaching Sun and Moon.
What
But with
did Nick
that,
play? Just out of
uh,
curiosity.
yeah, Nick was playing Night March Vespiquen.
Oh, and then Marcos.
I'd have to look that one up. I honestly like I
Okay,
had it when I wrote the answer down, but I do not have it off the top
sure.
of my head. Final question though is what was the most popular deck archetype in the top 8 of the 2014 US National Championship? Your
Oh man,
choices are Pyroar, Eviltal Garbodor, Virizion Genesect, or Raichu Big Basics.
man. So I know off the bat it's either between Pyro or Verzian Genesect, but I know Pyroar like Pramawat got second with the deck, if I'm not mistaken. And it did just like sweep through the whole event. His whole team and like a bunch of other top players played it as like just a hard counter to Verzian Genesect. And very annoying deck. Like not a super hard deck to play, but like, um yeah, I'm gonna just lock in Pyroar. I think that it had a strong enough showing to earn I think like 3 out of the 8 or 4 out of the 8 or something like that.
John, it seems like you may have been studying because it was, in fact, Pyroar with 3 out of 8 spots. Michael Primo did indeed get second place with it to Brandon Salazar in his Raichu Big Basics deck. Yeah, Virizion Genesect was definitely hated on in this event, in that there was only one copy of the deck in the top 8 overall. There we go. Thank you for playing, John. We did walk away with 2 points for you this week, bringing our final scores as of today at 10 points for you and 4 points for me. So I'm still hopelessly behind for the time being.
Yep. But that was pretty good. It's good to revisit some of those. I did live through some of those, so I'm glad you didn't pull from too far back for national championships. Because
I did think
I
about
would have,
that.
yeah. Like if you had done like which national champion, what a Gino Lombardi play or something like that, I would have struggled to be honest with you. So I don't know, but
Well, fair enough. Let's get back into some results from this weekend, though, right? So the first
oh
thing I
yeah,
wanted to pull up is going to be once again highlighting this mega Absol box. But I know there was a bit, if we like turn off this day 2 filter, you can see some interesting things. People are kind of freaking out. I know that I think it's PokeHive who puts out kind of infographics based on matchup spreads and win rates of decks. after major events. And the one that he put out this week involving Mega Absol Box showed some kind of crazy numbers for the win rate of the deck with, all these 100% discounted. If you look at some of the quote unquote like real decks, just a Goldengo Lunatone, 82% win rate, Dragonbolt Dusknoir, 76% win rate, Charizard Pidgeot, 70%, Grimmsnarl, 70%, Gardevoir Jellicent, 68%. And all of the numbers just make the deck look like, oh my goodness, this is totally unbeatable. And just taking a little step back, looking at the data a little bit more closely, once we kind of approach it from the lens of when not to talk bad about anyone in the tournament, but when the better tier of players are playing against the deck and seeing how they performed, we get to instead see some of these win rates look a lot more reasonable. So Gardevoir doesn't just auto lose to the deck because it's got a big dark attacker and a bunch of Monkey Dories in it. We've seen that hasn't been the case in the past. Sarah Ledge or a lot of rush decks seem to be pretty positive into the deck. I know that Raging Bolt in particular is a notably bad matchup for the deck from my experience, and that is reflected here, even though it is definitely a very limited sample size. But even something like Grimmsnarl, kind of putting a crack in the armor of this deck and toppling it from the potential BDIF pedestal that people were about ready to put it up on. So I just wanted to highlight this really quick, demonstrate that even though this deck is definitely strong, I think the thing that put it kind of over the top were the caliber of player that chose to pilot it. And we'll see a lot of those when we do look at the results from the events over this weekend. And that weighs into the results of a deck week to week, regardless of what archetype it is, right? But I think that with this one in particular, one, having the advantage of being a new deck that the average player has likely not tested into, and two, being piloted by the best of the best players is going to carry a lot of weight in terms of the success of the deck.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of new hype surrounding it, and rightfully so. But yeah, I think you did a good job of just explaining, like, it'll come back down to earth. I think the reflecting. I wonder how much did Absols and Mega Kangaskhan's go up over the weekend after this deck did well. Would be
They've
interesting to
about
see.
doubled in price. They went from
Yeah,
being like 80-cent cards to like $2.25 or something like that. Like
yeah, and I
nothing,
would be surprised if
nothing
they go
absurd.
up much more than that. But
Right.
um, just because Psyduck's going to be harder to find than those for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we saw an interesting. So when we'll look at the metagame here, literally right after I say this, but
Okay.
Sarah Ledge was the quote unquote most played deck as far as singular archetypes are concerned in day one of Milwaukee. But there was a similar trend with kind of a run on Sarah Ledges leading into Milwaukee, where probably 2 weeks prior, right when Mega Evolution had dropped, Sarah Ledge was maybe like $1, $1.50. And
Mm-hmm.
then the week before the event, the card had spiked all the way up to like $7 a card for
Yeah,
something
that's
that
pretty
had
wild.
seen little to no play prior to this event, but just notably had a big run on it. And if we look at it here, just day one, when you don't have variant grouping on, and this is a little confusing to me because I have variant grouping off here on Limitless, but still somehow it looks like Charizard Pidgeot was more popular, and I'm wondering if there's not a further breakdown of this. Like maybe some of these are Charizard Pidgeot Noctowl lists, and that
Okay.
would somehow be further subdivided. But
Yeah, on the
with
stream
that
graphic,
discounted,
it showed something different, right?
yeah, the stream graphic 100% showed Sarah Ledge as being the most popular deck in day one. So being like hovering right around 9%. And Charizard, I think, was up there, but it wasn't anywhere near this high. So something a little weird with how things got reported from between Arcanine and Limitless. But just,
Sure.
I never could have guessed that Cerulege would be the most popular deck going into this weekend. I knew that it was going up in popularity, but to be number one, and again, there's kind of an asterisk there. When you combine Gardevoir variants, like with the Gardevoir and Gardevoir Jellicent together, they're going to surpass the Cerulege. When you combine all the Goldangos together or all the Dragapults together, they'll likely pass it as well. But just as a standalone thing, Cerulege approaching this number, obviously it absorbed some number of players from the Raging Bolt squadron, and maybe people were still expecting a large population of Goldango players, but it just still was relatively surprising to me. And I now realize, having jumped into this, we didn't go over our predictions yet. So why don't we take a step
Nope.
back, slow our roll a little bit, and hit those up?
Yep. Thanks for the reminder. So we just had 8 different predictions going into Milwaukee. I'm going to run through them real quick and kind of go through what did well and what didn't do well. So number one was I brought up Raging Bolt had won in Milwaukee the last time we had it there, and then it had won a year ago to the day almost of the last time that there was a regional in October. Um, and I asked, how well do we expect it to do this weekend in Milwaukee? Um, Aaron, you said top 64. I was a little more optimistic with a top 16. Kind of split the difference, so I'll call it a draw with a top 32 from Yusing Lee, right at 32nd. So
Yep.
almost into the 64 territory, but just broke into the top 32. So we'll call that a draw. Um, After that, we asked which variant of Golden Go will be the highest placing one. Aaron, you said Energy Search Pro, and I said Rocks. I just thought because there was a lot more people playing Golden Go with a new Lunatone Soul Rock that was the way to go, and that definitely was the way to go. I think by a wide margin if you look at conversion rate.
Yeah.
Um, Austin Charles at 30th was the highest placing Golden Go player. And I think there was one in top cut in Belo Horizonte, if I'm not mistaken. So, but we were just talking about Milwaukee. But yeah, so that was kind of surprising in some ways. That honestly, I was kind of hype on Energy Search Pro variants as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they definitely struggled in converting, and yeah, definitely didn't do as well. But
Yeah, on average, they definitely did worse. There were still a few that were up there, top
yeah,
64, top 128, but on average, they definitely seem to have performed worse. And there's, again, some of that plays into numbers. Maybe should have expected that the Energy Search Pro list is going to be more popular and that's going to just lead to more numbers, but also just performing better, I guess, at the end of the day.
yep, yep. The next one was which one do we think will do better in the tournament, Budu or Frillish? We both picked Frillish, and I think that was the right move. Gardevoir made a decent run both in uh, non-jelly and gelatin variants. Aban Ahmed finished in second with the non-jelly variant, and then Rowan Stavinow finished in third place with the gelatin, and also that means with the 2 copies of Frillish in the deck. So much higher than the next highest placing. The highest placing Budu, I believe, would have been in the Dragapult Dusknoir variant in ninth place by Carson Washer.
Um, Actually,
Um, Unless there was.
Hale
Oh, go ahead.
Hale Abernolty played one copy of Badu
Oh,
in his
all
Mega
right, fair
Absol
enough.
box. So Badu fell just short of
Very
surpassing
close.
Frillish.
Wow, much closer than I thought. Okay, so bailed out by opponents' win percentage by
Right?
0.3% or 0.03%. So uh, barely got in there. Actually, Avon had a higher uh, point total for
Yeah,
CP.
this just has to do with like pre-bracket seeding. Like
Yeah. So
Rowan
I
had
guess
an extra match point over Hale to begin with.
okay, yeah, but that still factors in. Yep. So fair enough. So next one, how many Psyducks in Top Cut? Um, we both chose the same answer of one. Or actually, no, sorry, I misspoke. Aaron, you said 0, and I said 1. And we kind of missed
Way
the ball on
off.
this. Yeah, I mean, the Tord deck, the Absol box didn't really come out until after we recorded. So you could
Sure.
blame it on that. That runs Psyduck, and there was 3 of those in Top Cut. And then additionally, there was, I believe, a Grimmsnarl list that ran Psyduck, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Yep,
Brandon
with
Salazar
Brandon
with the
Salazar
Psyduck in the
running that.
list.
Yep. So 4 copies in the top 8 of this tournament ran Psyduck. So I said 1. So I'm going to still call it a draw because we were both pretty far off.
Yeah, I think
So
we
we'll
did. We
push
both
that.
definitely lost on that one.
Yeah, that's
That,
fair.
but again, like you said, not knowing about the existence of this and how kind of integral Psyduck really is to the strategy of the deck, especially in that Dusknoir based matchup.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where if the tech card swings the matchup that much, you just have to play it at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, you running Mist Energy helps a lot, where they can't just kind of ping it off the bench easily.
Yeah,
They're forced to like either boss KO it or um, really just ignore it. But definitely, Psyduck definitely had a big impact this weekend, I think.
yeah,
And that is reflected in the tournament results, but also in the price of the card going up severely since the weekend's over. Next one was how many grims in Top Cut. We both chose 2. There was only one with Brandon Salazar getting 5th place in the Top Cut. I mean, which I think that's about, looking back, I think one's a little bit more reasonable. I know you were hype on the deck going in, and I kind of bought into the hype a little bit, but just looking at like the play percentage, and mostly that. And I think maybe if the Tor deck doesn't come on, maybe it does a little bit better. Not that it has such a bad matchup into that, but just a lot of top players were moved over to that new deck. And did pretty well, all things considered, I'd say, right?
for sure.
Like it had a
Yeah, we saw
decent, yeah.
another one in top 16. And the unfortunate thing here, if we do look at Brandon's matchups real quick, he actually played Serena in the final round.
So
So
kind
there
of
was a chance
cannibalized
that
it.
both of them could have made cut.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little disappointing, but is what it is.
Yep.
I'll take
So
my L on that one.
I gave that one a draw as well. Um, Obviously. The next one was Pidgeot control. Had factored into a lot of online stuff going into the tournament, and I asked what was the highest placing control deck. I guess if you want to look at walls, maybe that would be a factor, but uh, definitely Cooper Cole in top 16 was well above both of our predictions, honestly, um, and did really well, all things considered. I think he just had a little bit more ties than he wanted. But yeah, this is
Yeah.
a cool list if you're trying to build Pidgeot control. Some really cool things going for it that I hadn't really seen before, with Ting Lu and Mega Kangaskhan to draw some cards, Ruffian, I guess, to discard tools and special energy, and then
And you do
that
have the
I
Hero's
guess
Cape
is,
instead of is it Grand Tree, right?
yeah, Grand Tree to get
Yeah.
Pidgeot out.
So instead
So
of
that
Grand Tree,
makes
you have the
sense.
Hero's Cape. Like Hero's Cape with Kangaskhan, that's a big Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly, that was a strategy for like Wailord and for going back further, with a lot of decks just penny looping forever. Like this runs 2 penny, but you can get, with 3 Palpad back, you can get them back pretty easily.
Hmm.
No electromagnetic sonar or any way to recover Palpad from what I can tell. But I guess if you run 3 Palpad, that is essentially 8 penny theoretically throughout the game. So that should be enough to deal with anything that comes your way.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
and you can
And we
kind of,
saw another variant of this list on stream over the weekend. I think it was Nathan Ginsburg made it on stream
mm,
at some point playing the deck. And he had a little bit of an unfortunate go with it, but it definitely still highlighted the fact that Mega Kangaskhan as an engine for this control deck also has legs, in addition to the kind of more straight Pidgeot builds that we've seen come from the All Out Blitzel camp in the lead up to Milwaukee.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, the fact that you get access to free retreat with Latias really just makes a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things easier.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. But so I said top 32, you said top 64. I'm going to give myself that one.
Sure,
Um,
go for it.
just
You got the
just
prices right
because,
answer.
yeah, I mean, and 15th, right on that cut line of top 16. Sure. All right. The next one was what is the highest placing new archetype to come from Mega Evolutions? we made the mistake of recording right before Tord dropped before the Tord list leaked out. So we both chose some questionable choices. You chose Mega Venusaur. I chose Mega Manectric. I already looked these up. Mega Venusaur finished in 86th, and Mega Manectric finished in 144th. I think all things considered, neither one of us won this one with how
Whoa,
well.
whoa, 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 whoa!
Oh,
Mega
okay, all right,
Venusaur, Mega Venusaur did still outperform Mega Manectric.
all
Now
right,
we
all
were,
right,
I will agree with you that we were definitely wrong because Mega Absol was nowhere on our radar to begin with, and we
right,
also likely, even though it wouldn't have been an archetype in and of itself, we probably could have guessed that Mega Kangaskhan in some capacity would be the one of, if not the most successful Megas going into the
sure.
weekend, just because it's more splashable, has the utility factor going for it. But I'm honestly kind of blown away and impressed by the results from both of these archetypes. I think that they are far above what I truly expected them to be able to achieve early on in the format. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I
the,
mean,
the
the
the win
ingenuity of
the win
Pokemon
rates
players is always.
the win rates here are really troubling for
Oh,
the Venusaur camp.
yeah, but definitely, Jake had a deep run. I mean, like you click on him, I think he was sitting at the top tables all the way till the last round. He lost his last round, yeah, versus Julius to cap off a pretty good run before that. So he would have made probably top 36, top 32 if he wins. So, um, but yeah, it looks like I think I guess we'll give it to you. Um, if we have to. And then the last question was pick a player to do well. I picked Piper Lapine, who finished 80th, but you had the foresight to pick the runner-up to this tournament, Abana Med, who is on an absolute heater the last three tournaments. Just an insane run. Kind of crazy that he's gotten second. Oh no, he won in Mexico, right?
Mexico, yeah,
But
yeah,
the last two after that has gotten second, which is just you know kind of wild in its own
absolutely
way.
absurd. Yeah,
Yeah, but props to him, man. I mean, he's having a great, fantastic start to this season. He could honestly just do nothing the rest of the year and probably still be in the top 32. Um, I mean, realistically, like nobody really. I don't know.
no,
Maybe I don't
like
know what.
championship point wise, people aren't catching
Yeah,
him anytime soon.
yeah. Not until we've had like two or three ICs until, or at least till like NAIC. Yeah. Um, but no, I mean he's starting off with Guardy. Kept playing Guardy. Looks like it's working really well for him. His list, I guess that's all the predictions. Just to recap all that. I won two predictions, and you ended up winning two predictions. So it ended up just being and the rest were kind of either draws or not really worth mentioning. So we'll just call it a good tie, good friendly tie.
I think it sounds
Nobody.
like we both did terrible, though.
I
All
mean,
things
we
considered.
other than your prediction for a bond, I will say that's probably I'll give it to you just for that, because it was very impressive. But yep, we see a lot of cool things coming out of this list. Some rehashing. I know. I listened to the Shift Gear podcast and they were hyping up Enamorus, which honestly is a crazy card that this is doing well. But hey, uh, I guess this is where we're at. But for those that are not deeply familiar with Enamorus, and I can't blame you, like this card's hideous to look at if I'm honest. Um, it is a basic psychic Pokemon with 120 hit points. It mostly just is relevant for its second attack, Love Resonance. It does 80 damage base, but if any of the Pokemon in play are the same type, or sorry, if any of your Pokemon in play are the same type of as your opponents, this attack does 120 more damage. And with Monkey Dory being so prevalent, you almost always have a psychic Pokemon in play. You also can run Fezandipity, so a lot of decks also run Fezandipity. So you have like a almost 80 to 90% chance of like having a Pokemon that's the same as your opponent in play. And so now you're
Mhm.
able to just use this as a one prize attacker, and there's just so many use cases for it. You know, if you just move 10 damage off of one of your Pokemon over to a Pheasantipity, you can just one shot that Pokemon. Or if, you know, so many different things like that where, yeah, you're just able to do just insane combos for, and then just as a one prizer swinging. Some other cool things. This is a turbo energized build. You know, we talked about that card showing up in the Tord list. Well, this one shows up here, and I think the thought process being you want to get your dark energy in play as fast as possible. This, so you would just go, you know, artisan turn one, for a monkey, and then maybe get a nest ball for another monkey if you can. Try to get that secret box if you can, but this doesn't really run a lot of like Arvins or anything like that. It's mostly just draw centric, with 4 lilies and 4 Iono. So a little bit different, utilizing the new supporter lilies to the max effect. And that makes a lot of sense. You don't really want to discard too much. This allows you to play the 3 rare candy instead of 4 build. So you still have access to fast Guardy when you want it, but also like late game to help recover from any board states that are Guardy-less. You're able to draw into it without really risking discarding. You only run 1 research, so definitely not as big a factor as it was at the one point. But yeah, I think everything else kind of makes sense. No drift loom. So I guess you're using primarily, uh, you know, just Monkey Dories and Guardies and Screamtail, and eventually maybe an Enamorus or Clefairy or even Mew to attack. But uh, and then also the Iron Bundle is kind of a new tech that we talked a little bit about, as a counter to the Jellicent mirror. Like if you're playing against Jellicent, this build of Guardies feels a lot harder to pilot and harder to win against Jellicent. So if you're able to get
Absolutely.
that one turn where you're pushing that Jellicent down to the bench, you can, you know, build up a Guardy and then just kind of go from there. That feels really good. But yeah, I think I'm not really any surprised by anything like this. The one counter catcher is interesting. Like you don't really run any Gus except for that. No other boss cards, so I think that's interesting
Right.
to me. Like it
I mean
really puts. I guess that's the way Guardy's
that's
been played for a while now.
yeah. That's kind of been a standby in the from the Henry Chow camp of Gardevoir for a good bit. And they're actually for a little bit, I think we're running lists with no gust whatsoever and
Mm,
just playing games based off of good damage manipulation between Screamtail and Monkey Dory. But here, sometimes for sure, like you mentioned, wanting to be able to pick off something like a Pheasantipity or a Mew or a
yeah,
Squawkabilly potentially on somebody's bench with Enamorus and having access to that 200 damage nuke is really big. And then one of the other ones, I don't think you called it out before, but the fact that if you just power up Enamorus and move those 6 counters over to a Goldengo, you can one shot it with Enamorus, and then if
crazy.
your Enamorus gets knocked out, you're okay because you just
Yeah,
swing, you just Night Stretcher it back and do it again. And I like some of the other nods here. I love the fact that we are Henry seems to be very much so aligned with my philosophy on supporter cards, and that I think Arvin is a terrible card now. And I this dates back to when like Forest Sealstone rotated out of the format, and I
sure.
think Arvin lost a lot of its strength purely off of that card rotating. And so it what the main purpose of Arvin is just every once in a while you need to specifically go grab like a Night Stretcher and a Bravery Charm. And because you need those exact 2 cards, it makes the most sense to play Arvin rather than Lily and hope you draw into them. Whereas early in the game, Lily for 8, that's a lot of cards. And
Mm-hmm.
that more or less gets you into what you need it to get you into. And there are some kind of nods as far as consistency boosts that say, hey, I acknowledge that I'm not going to be playing Arvin early. I need to make it more likely that I just draw into these cards by bumping up the rare candy count to 3 or adding. I believe second nest ball has not always been kind of a mainstay in the list from Henry and Co. Um, but just also including other things. So even though we're running 4 tool cards, we're only running 1 Arvin in the list. And just having 9 draw supporters in a lot of cases, I think feels better than playing more copies of Arvin in place of something like the research or the 4th copy of Lily.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about it earlier last week and the week before, where we were saying, "Oh yeah, Lilies just makes all the stage 2 decks more powerful," and we definitely see that that's the case here. You're really limited to your draw with Mew and with Fez, and you really don't want to be playing Research. So just being able to have access to a shuffled draw card that gets you an insane amount of cards, just see more cards, always kind of the principle of Pokemon. And just with the secret box build, you being able to find that earlier really just influences so many games. And getting Artisan down and all the other aspects of it. Getting energy in the discard pile is huge, especially if you're going up against like a mirror or a Jellicent deck. Having more access to see more energies, see more earthen vessels is really, really nice. So, yeah, I like it. I definitely think this is probably the way to go with Guardy. Um, that or the third place build if we're going to look at other Guardy lists. Um,
Yeah, we can hop over to that real quick before we talk
yeah, just
about maybe the winner of the event.
sure. So this one, I think if you've been playing Jelly Guardy, it looks pretty close to anything any other list of Jelly Guardy you've been playing. Yeah, I don't really see anything that sticks out to me, if I'm honest. Um, no,
No,
yeah,
like we see
this
the
looks
air balloon in
exactly.
here still. Like we'd seen a
Yep,
little bit going up into Milwaukee where people had started to drop the air balloon in favor of playing Latias in the deck,
yeah,
but
but I like the
Rowan
air
choosing to
balloon.
stick with the air balloon. And again, only playing one Lily here, instead saying, hey, I need my higher accounts of Arven because I need my specific tool cards on specific turns. So I can kind of get behind the logic of that too. I know I was just saying how much I think Arven's a bad card, but I think that the purpose of Arven is specifically finding you, like I said, a combination of a specific item and a specific tool. Obviously, you read the card, that's what the card does, but needing
Hmm.
it to do it on demand, determine and how often those instances come up in the general strategy of your deck determines how strong the card is in the deck, right? And so, since you don't have a ubiquitous tool like what we had with Forest Sealstone, the average strength of the card has gone down. But for this deck in particular, one of the big power plays is getting a Jellicent sitting active and then TM Devoing your opponent's board to get a lot of rare candied stage twos out of play, or setting up damage and Devo wiping to either KO stage twos that devolve to basics or stage ones, and then preventing your opponent from re-evolving out, and then now they also can't counter catcher. So being able to say, I need to find TM Devo on a specific turn throughout the course of this game makes Arvin feel a bit stronger in this deck versus the one that Aban and Co were running.
Yeah, for sure. I like the air balloon. Just real quick, I saw it.
Oh,
It come up
absolutely.
a
I
good
agree.
amount. Yeah, it came up a good amount in the mirror where you wanted to get that turn one going second Jellicent into the active, and you just played Arvin for air balloon and like nest ball to do
Mm-hmm.
that, or secret box or something like that. So super relevant, but um, that's enough Guardy talk for me. I'm falling asleep just talking about it.
We've talked about a lot of other decks so far this week, but we have not talked about this deck, and we actually failed to mention the deck in our
At all.
predictions last week, and that would be Charizard Pidgeot, kind of rising from the grave in the hands of none other than Jackson Ford, who's kind of made a name for himself throughout the course of last season as the Charizard guy, or one of the
Yeah,
Charizard guys. I know Oyvind is also a big Charizard player over in Europe, so no shade to him whatsoever. But Jackson showing up with no Psyduck, but in choosing to include Dusknoir and then trying to play around Psyduck by including a copy of Klefki in his list, along with some other interesting energy inclusions where, for the longest time we've seen Charizard lists slim down their energy counts and try to get the lower and lower energy counts as much as possible. And instead of playing copies of Turo, we've got copies of Jet Energy to be able to maybe promote Klefki so you can blow up a Dusknoir and then retreat the Klefki, while also including Mist because it is just perennially a good card in the Charizard decks, both for protecting your Pidgeots or your Charizard line from TM Devo, whether it be against Jelly Guardy or Grimmsnarl over the course of those matchups. And then other than that, just it's a Charizard deck at the end of the day. Like Maximum Belt has still become kind of the go-to A spec for this archetype. Briar is a card that kind of goes in and out of lists, but is always a strong card, has strong utility in the instances where you're able to make it work. and presumably Jackson was able to do that over the course of this tournament several times. I think one of the more interesting inclusions in my mind is the town store.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not something that I'm just not a huge fan of the card in general, but presumably it was also pretty useful for Jackson throughout the weekend.
I mean, you don't run a lot of tools, but I guess you just want access to those tools when you want access to those tools.
Sure.
Just running two TM Evo and one maximum belt.
Mm-hmm.
Maximum belt just helped fixing a lot of the math early game to be able to take knockouts more efficiently, more aggressively into those, uh, you know, early EX attackers. And then this is just a kind of consistency focused. A lot of Pokemon in here, but a lot of it
Yeah.
all just once you get the Pidgeot set up, it all just kind of flows together. Tatsugiri is a little interesting include, but I guess it makes sense if you're running Jet Energy already. You can kind of just put it down and have more access to get like the Arven you need, or like if you're looking for a specific supporter and you don't want to Pidgeot for it, you can go try to dig it out with Tatsugiri. Um, and then this was one of the few lists we saw that actually ran Shaman. Not a heavily played card this weekend, I'd say. Um, but I guess his argument was, well, I just need to set up and I can, you know, it does what it needs to do early. I can prevent my Charmanders from getting KO'd early, my Pidgeots from getting KO'd early, or Pidgeys. So yeah, it just makes a lot of sense. You know, I don't know. I think it's a basic Charizard list for the most part. There's a couple interesting inclusions, like the energy line's interesting, the tech Pokemon are interesting, but overall, I don't think it's anything we haven't really seen before. You have a non-EX decent attacker in Chi-Yu, but we've seen that before. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't feel like this is like super groundbreaking, but it's just Jackson saying, hey, like I know I can just pilot this deck better than anybody else, and that's what he did. And into a room full of like the weird Tord deck, this I guess just has enough answers for all of that. Charizard still hits for gobs of damage and is really hard to knock out. Like that
Yeah.
hasn't changed, and the fact that you
Yeah.
have an answer to Psyduck with the Clef Key definitely gives you that little bit of an edge in that matchup. And then into Guardy, you're just a big dark attacker they can't clear. So and they can't TM Devo you if you run Mist. So it's just like, well, what do you do? So
Right.
um,
And then,
yeah,
like, just demonstrating again, like we talked about Lily's boosting these stage 2 decks. Well, when you have a Pidgeot based stage 2 deck, you're just in for a good
yeah,
time if you're getting that Pidgeot set up more consistently, right? And
oh yeah.
I'm sure Lily is a big factor in that as well.
It's crazy how we just kind of forget about Charizard every now and again, and then it just pops up like just kind of out of nowhere. But yeah, I mean, I think Azul was hyping it up going into this tournament, saying he would play Charizard if he played in this
Yeah.
tournament. That's what he said on
And
the
I
podcast.
believe I believe we did see Caleb Gettimer and I think Grant Manley both did pilot the deck. I know
Mm.
Caleb. I think that they were both in day 2. I don't know how deep of a run they both had, but
I'm
it,
sure
it,
Grant
it
hit
Grant was
three
obviously the
grass
most
decks or
unlucky
something
player
like
in the
that.
room.
Yeah,
In the room, of course,
I
goes
want to
without
see.
saying.
I want to see what he played against just to get a laugh, most likely. Uh,
Did play Charizard.
8-4 played Charizard. Lost to Xander playing
Poltnor,
Tord Box and
Poltnor,
Tord.
and Tord deck, and a God of War.
I'm sure he prized Klefki both games against Xander.
No, he didn't play Klefki. Instead, opting to play. This list
Okay.
was different. There's no Dust Noir in here. This is like a
Oh, I
Monkey
did see
Dory
the
based
Ho on
deck.
his list. That's right. He started that in one of the matches I walked by or something like that.
Yeah, this is
So
teched a little bit differently. No Briar. All things considered, I think I like Jackson's list more.
yeah, it, this is a little too scattered. Like, if I'm honest, not that it's bad, but it's just less focused. And I think
Sure.
working into like what works better for your deck, you know, yeah, Grant went with more of a straight build without Dustnor. And yeah, Jackson said, well, Dustnor is my main win condition, and it helps me make Briar an effective card. It helps me help handle matchups against stuff and like push the prize advantage or push my aggression boost my damage, but also like help me get closer to getting knockouts. Only lost to Ian Robb. That's
Hmm. And I
that's
do
pretty
think
cool.
one very telling thing here is the fact that Jackson only played against one Dragapult throughout the weekend, and which has historically been one of Charizard's worst matchups.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, being able to hit the Gardevoirs, beat them, and having a game plan and being able to handle the Tord decks that he played against, the Absol boxes, I guess we should get used to saying, um, served him very well, and then had the good fortune, as is always part of a tournament run, to not hit too many Dragapult decks on his way to the top.
Yeah. So good
Yeah,
job, Jackson. I mean, this
for sure.
is I think his second or third regional, right? That he's won as a
I want to say number
master.
two. I want to say number two
Yeah.
because I think he
He
got one
played.
either
I think he
last
won
year or
with
the year
Charizard
before.
the last time too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I think so. I think
So
so.
cool
Do
to
we
see Canada. 2 out of the top 3. So that's kind of cool.
Did you have any
Um.
other deck lists you wanted to look at before we jump over to Belo Horizonte, though? Because
Go
I
back
have
up.
one thing I wanted to highlight real quick. So maybe look
Um.
over the list while I wanted to pull up
Sure.
Austin
I'll take a
Charles's
look.
Goldango list in particular, because there is notably an inclusion in here that I don't think anybody else had in their Goldango deck, and that is the Mega Lucario EX that Austin was notably playing as his cornerstone tech for the weekend. And so Mega Lucario, obviously not having an ability, being able to utilize that Mega Brave attack for 270 damage, cleanly one hit KOs a cornerstone, even if it has a Bravery Charm attached to it. And, or if they have the Bravery Charm and the Lively Stadium, you can still utilize this copy of Premium Power Pro that he's playing to hit the 300 mark and KO a Lively Stadium Bravery Charmed Cornerstone Ogerpon EX with Mega Lucario. And then your opponent really doesn't have any recourse for that when you're the Goldango deck. And if you're able to just do that and then do it again in 2 turns, the Tord deck loses its game plan into Goldango. So I think that this is something that's relatively interesting, and I would not at all be surprised to see an uptick in play in the future, because it does seem to slot in very nicely into this archetype in particular.
Yeah. Sounds good. Uh. Let's see. Looking through. Um, hmm. Yeah, I don't think there's nothing really that is screaming like interesting.
To
Yep.
jump over to the other regional that John and I woefully forgot was happening last weekend, down in Belo Horizonte in Brazil. Um, just again, their metagame looks relatively similar. The top 6 decks look to be pretty much the same, not necessarily in the same order, but still Grimmsnarl, Charizard, Gardevoir, Goldango, Cerulege, and Dragapult as the top 6. Not really surprising.
I
We
mean,
do see
Grimmsnarl
some
being number that high up is pretty interesting to me.
It's about 1% higher than what they had in Milwaukee. And if we do the variant grouping, we do get to see the Gardevoirs, Goldangos, and Dragapults do all overtake it.
Yeah,
So
but
it's not
Charcadet
crazy
definitely
way out there.
not as high.
Oh,
Oh, I
Sarah,
guess
yeah,
it's like
Sarah Ledge is
1%. Or sorry,
no,
that's what I meant.
Sarah Ledge was
It's like
what was it in
9%, I guess.
Milwaukee? Yeah, so it's only a little bit lower than it
All
was in
right.
Milwaukee. We do have a little bit smaller of a player base, a little bit less than half the size. But just looking at things here, um, very, very top heavy top cut, or at least the top end of that top cut. Sitting down for the finals in this event, we did have Gustavo Wada and Gabriel Fernandez making finals in his first Masters regional. And I know I saw a couple of tweets over the weekend where Gabriel was at table 1 at some point during day 1 and day 2, and just already making his mark in the Masters world. I'm pretty sure he's already got his locals maxed out. Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Probably.
Was piloting his variant of the Tord box and is notably different from the list that Tord and Code played over in Milwaukee,
Mm.
in that the Pokemon lineup looks totally different. The trapping package is just gone from the deck. This is just basically a straight up, I'm attacking you with my wall Pokemon. But we're not using Trolley to get everybody out. Instead, maxed out on Nest Ball and actually including a copy of Mega Signal as additional search for the Mega Pokemon in particular, utilizing Cypher Maniac's code breaking in tandem with Run Aaron from Kangaskhan to help you find cards where you need them. And then the big thing, because we don't have that trolley, we have the extra basic search, we have room to play something like Unfair Stamp as the ace spec, and just hoping to set the opponent back from there. Still accelerating energy into play with Turbo Energize, but also including other pseudo energy acceleration in the form of counter gain that can be slapped onto any of the attacking either Mega Pokemon or the Cornerstone or Blood Moon. And just playing a big basic, mostly wall or meat shield strategy, and seemed to work out very well for him over the course of the day. I think that I played a little bit. I know I had sent you, John, a list that was closer to this and one that was
Mm-hmm.
closer to the trolley build. And I think after playing games with both of them, I'm personally a fan of the trolley build, but there are some things from this that I do
Yeah, I
think
like the
have
enhanced
merit.
hammer for the mirror.
Yes,
Um, yeah, I think I'm cool with dropping the trapping aspect of it. Like that definitely felt like a weaker aspect if you were trying to think about what win conditions you have. Um, maybe I'm naive to say that, but like I think a lot of people are ready for traps in this metagame. I like
sure.
the counter gain a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense. And then, yeah, two town store is crazy to me. I'll be honest with you. But I guess you just want a counter stadium that your opponent probably won't be able to use too often. And then that allows you to just kind of supplement your hand, thin your deck out, if you will. So it's even if you don't use the tool you get off of the town store, you're able to like at least thin your deck out. So there's some advantage there.
Yeah,
But yeah, definitely cool to see the Cipher Maniac or, build of this deck. But everything else, kind of, I don't know. It's definitely like just different enough to definitely be a different variant of this archetype. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it looks pretty cool.
yeah. I mean, I think if you feel like you have a different play style, more or less, or you
Mm,
lean towards a certain ace spec as your favorite ace spec of choice, maybe give this build a try if you're not a trolley fan, and
yeah,
or find maybe some combination of the two. Merge it in the
Gabriel
middle, see what fits for you, right?
Gabriel definitely loves Unfair Stamp. Like he played it at
Oh, yeah,
NAIC. I think he's played it in almost every deck that he's played the last few years. So
yeah. He played it in his Zoroark list at Worlds too, didn't he?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so definitely a big fan of that. But the winner of the event and maybe shining some hope. Now we did get to see on stream, notably, I think it was Rowan Stavinow did win the matchup of Gardevoir versus the Mega Absol box in kind of a really crazy six prize turn, KOing an Absol with Monkey Dory into like a counter catcher on a Kangaskhan and attack the Kangaskhan with Mew and flip two heads,
crazy.
copying the Kangaskhan attack to one hit KO it. But that's a pretty out there scenario and not one that comes up all that often. And it was literally the only way that Rowan was going to be able to win that game. So Gustavo has a couple of other tools in the deck that are probably better suited for that matchup in particular and maybe lend themselves to why he was able to come out on top in this matchup. And so we do have the Mega Gardevoir EX making an appearance with the Mega Symphonia attack, again, doing 50 damage for each psychic energy that you have in play as the Gardevoir player. With 8 copies of the Psychic Energy, this Gardevoir can hit up to 400 damage, which cleanly one hit KOs all of the Mega Pokemon in the Big Basics deck, regardless of what HP modifiers they have. Also, obviously, can hit through Cornerstone. And Gustavo actually chose to include Drifloon in the deck as well, which probably makes a pretty big difference in those matchups, too. Drifloon being able to hit up to that 300 damage, not leaving damage in play for the big basic deck to work with their Monkey Dories could probably just be a huge headache for the deck at the end of the day.
Yeah, a little more of an aggressive attacking build. Still running the Monkey Dories, obviously. But yeah, it definitely has the Iron Bundle like we saw earlier for like the
Mm-hmm.
Jellicent Mirror. And yeah, definitely more draw centric. You have 4 Iono, 3 Lilies, 3 Research, and those are your only supporters. No Turo or Boss or anything like that. Um, yeah, I mean this is all gas, no brakes for Guardy if you want to put it that way. No real tools outside of your Bravery Charm, like no TM Evo or Turbo Energize, if you will. Um,
Right.
So I think this is just if you want to get as many energy in the discard pile as early as possible and start swinging, and you have enough variable one prize attackers. You still run Cleffa even with lilies. I guess you just want to rebuild your hand up after turn one. But yeah, seems like a pretty good deck. I like the Mystery Garden. Seems interesting. I don't know if I
Hmm.
would want to play it for that. 2 copies of it is the most I've seen out of this build, and I feel like it makes more sense in this kind of attacking build than it does in like a board presence slower deck. Because you just want to draw more cards, see more things, get more things going.
Hmm.
So that's pretty good. Gustavo, it's cool to see him back. He took a little hiatus last year for med school, I believe. So it's good to see him back on the tournament circuit. It's crazy. I mean, he might not. He might be done. Honestly, he might just be one and done. Go back to med school after this. After winning the one, he needs to get his world's invite. So it'll be interesting to see if he plays in anything else. Um, but truly a legend of the game at this point.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
If you're not familiar with the name, you should go back and like kind of research him. He was a world champion, I think, as a junior or
Seniors.
senior, right?
It was seniors, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. But since then has just been dominant. I think he
IC
won,
champ, multiple
yeah,
IC finals.
yeah. So he's just been a dominant force for the last 10, 15 years now. Um, So yeah, and he's a really nice guy from all I can tell. Really, just loves Pokemon, loves playing the game. You love to see that kind of aspect of it. So,
For sure.
and then rounding out the top three, you see Joltik Box, which was an interesting pick for Diego Casaraga, another former top finishing worlds competitor.
No,
Definitely.
world champion, John. Give the man his flowers.
Oh,
Come on now.
Oh, that's right. He won with Guardy. Yeah. Yeah, definitely world champion. This is I'd say a pretty standard build, other than maybe the Magneton. I don't think that was played a whole lot. Um, but yeah, just a kind of basic looking Joltik box list, as far as I can tell. You're
Yeah.
running the Brox scouting, which is a little different. Which I guess you're just kind of preparing for item lock, so you can get out of that um, if you need to. And then yeah, 3
No,
Poke
being able to
gear. But
being able to find the magneton under item lock makes a lot of sense. The one thing
sure.
that stands out to me the most is the reintroduction or re-inclusion of the Clefairy and the psychic energy, when we'd seen a
Mm,
lot of lists choose to drop those and move away from them as the deck had kind of evolved and refined itself further. And especially as we started to see the like Goldango Joltik decks pop up, right? Like this
right.
package, it was being slowly pushed out more and more. The Iron Leaves doesn't even see play in every list, I don't think, anymore. But
Sure.
definitely, like you said, the Magneton is probably one of the most standout things in here.
But I mean, this is still like for all the people that don't love this deck or think it's too basic. I mean, this tells you a lot that a top player took it all the way to third place, and yeah, it still has some legs. It's still, I mean, Iron Hands. I think when it's all said and done, will go down as one of the most broken cards of all time. It just feels unfair, and it is unfair that you can just take extra prize cards and like
Sure.
you know with the surgence of stage 2 decks, uh, definitely feels pretty good. I think it fell victim to hitting into, if I had to guess, hitting into Gabriel with the Walls deck. Um,
Yep.
yep. So that makes sense. Like, just don't really have enough power to get over the top of 330, 380 if you have, all the accoutrement. No counter stadium, no tool removal, so no real easy way to counter all that. So yeah, really hard to even come close to knocking anything out that's is that big with a
Yeah.
Pikachu. So makes sense,
Right.
but good run either irregardless.
Yeah. And then just some kind of continued ever present decks in the top cut. We see more Gardevoirs here from Marco Garcia, Sebastian Itura. Um, Grimsnarl makes another top four appearance with Palo Faraz. And then a new deck, another Mega Kangaskhan deck, but and a wall deck in its own right, but not featuring Mega Absol, still featuring Turbo Energize, but Emmanuel Diogo, played a Mega Kangaskhan wall deck, so we do see copies of the Curly Wall Buffalant from Stellar Crown, boosting the Kangaskhan's HP even further. So, if you thought that the thing was difficult to KO in the quote unquote traditional Tord build, where you could get up to 380, well, let's tack another 60 on top of it and say, does your Goldengo deck even play enough energies to KO this? And in a lot of circumstances, the answer to that is just no.
Yeah.
If you prize a couple of energy, you just can't get over the top of that. But just playing, you got the Turbo Energize, also Crispin to help accelerate energy into play, notably playing the Ace Nullifier Genesect to further try to inhibit the opponent's strategy while you just really look like this deck aims to set up Kangaskhan and swing with it at some point, as your primary attackers are going to be the Kangaskhan and the Cornerstone, with Blood Moon to help close out the game, and Monkey Dory's kind of pinging damage where you need them over the course of the game as your big beefy Pokemon continue to take hits. So
Yeah.
I mean, for the simplicity of it all, I think that this is an interesting strategy. I do think personally I would still favor the Absol based build. I think Absol brings a lot to the archetype, and would definitely think that that would be the way to go moving forward. Another Absol box with Pedro Cide, Mateus Rosa with Archaludon, which always seems to do better, I think, in Latin America than it does in other regions. And
Maybe.
then Bruno Ogashwara with Sarah Ledge rounding out the asymmetrical top cut. So definitely some interesting things from this weekend. I think Sarah Ledge appearing as the most prominent aggro deck is not super surprising to me, but I think it actually being successful compared to the Raging Bolts of the past, where the deck was ever present but not really converting super well, is a sign that maybe Sarah Ledge really is here to stay, and the Rocks package was exactly what the deck was missing as far as an early game or alternative attacker to really push it over the line and help it take advantage of the strength of the card that just wasn't quite enough for it in previous formats.
Yep. Yep. Also cool to see Mega Mawile and Archaludon getting some love. Um,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
yeah, so good utilization. And then this also ran the Risky
Risky
Ruins, which is
Ruins.
yeah, just to add some damage to some of the things that are hard to knock out. Um, you could run Risky Ruins with Monkey Dory and Dark Energy to just help reach those numbers that are annoying for our Chaladon to reach. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, this is, I mean, I think it's interesting because like it's still very meta. It's a varied meta and it's different but the same at the end of the day. Like there's a couple
Yeah.
different decks that made top cut in Latin America that didn't make it in the US and vice versa. But I think ultimately, like, still cool to see some innovations here, some new decks, new archetypes, and a lot of the old stuff as well. But
Yeah, we still have the Gardevoir sticking around. We have the Dragapults. We have the Grimmsnarls.
yeah,
But we do have these new fresh faces, and it'll be interesting to see how those things evolve. We've got several events lined up for this format. I think that there are a total of 7 majors when you look across all the regions and including LAIC that are
mm,
going to encompass this format. So it'll be really interesting to see how it continues to develop and evolve as we head further into it.
yeah.
But I think that just about covers everything that we wanted to talk about for this format for the week. Any final thoughts before we close things out, John?
No, I did see today that Pokemon released a little presser for the Pocket anniversary coming up. So I don't know how much of Pocket you play, Lily. I got back into it a little bit over the weekend. I was playing with another professor and like uh, just playing some games at work last week when it was a little slow.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's been pretty fun. I've been mostly playing. I just play the BDIF and Pocket because I'm not creative. I'm not trying to really do anything beyond that. So I was playing the Suicune deck with the Greninjas.
Yeah.
So deck that I mean, I asked like Michael Pramwa because he plays Pocket, like what deck he's been playing. He said like that one because it feels like the most like playing Pokemon as opposed to any other Pocket deck. And I'm like, that's fair. And it does. Like you get a lot more agency, you get more actions per turn than any other deck, and you're able to like set up KOs with the Greninjas and snipe stuff. So that's cool. But Pokemon announced today that they're, celebrating their anniversary, and then I guess later this month. Um, and that they said that they're gonna make some changes, including you're able to gift cards to friends, I believe,
Yep,
once per
once
day,
per day.
and then
Anything from 1 to 4 diamonds can be
which
gifted to someone else.
I mean that's pretty nice. Like that allows you to fill out your collection if you're trying to get some basic rares or basic Pokemon, or there's some times where you need that one EX in your deck and your friend has one and they're willing to give it to you. So that's kind of cool. I don't know how exactly that'll work. If you like, you'll need to submit a wish list, and then people will help fulfill that with cards and stuff. And then in addition to that, I think they're allowing uh, easier trades for like higher level stuff. So
Yep.
like the ultra rares from Poke Pocket will be able to be traded for once. So that's I guess that's good. And then the rest was just like mostly patch notes and quality of life, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I'm trying
I
to
mean,
remember.
if anything for like what I took away from this from the announcement was that it's just kind of a means of them trying to bring players back in.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if the game has seen a pretty steep drop off over the last couple of months. Things have been very stale meta wise. They're not really introducing a ton of features into the game or anything. The latest pack was just kind of a hey, either if you're a new player, come get in because you can get every card we've released so far, or if you're an older player, you can catch up maybe if you fell behind or missed a set or whatnot. And now, like, you have the ability as a brand new player, you can do the thing where you can make a bunch of accounts and just open this super EX pack for the rest of the month and then just kind of gift all of the cards into one super account at the end of it all if you really wanted to. I do like the idea of being able to actually trade the kind of illustration rares or the
Mm-hmm.
super illustration rare things. Those are good changes in my book. I don't know why they weren't tradable before, but I can also recognize and get behind the idea like not trading crown rares or immersives. I guess is fine. Maybe at some point they'll get around to it. I would be lying if I didn't say I fell off of the kind of the PvP aspect of
Mm-hmm.
Pocket recently. It's felt very samey because they
Yeah.
haven't introduced any new cards, and I can only take so many Suicune Greninja mirrors before I want to stop playing.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean it's been pretty stale for the last couple months. Well, we are getting a new set at the end of the month, and that'll definitely shake stuff up. It is a Mega Evolution set where the Mega Evolution Pokemon will be worth 3 prizes, and or 3 prize points or whatever they call it. And that is all of the prize points. So that'll be an interesting mechanic for sure. And I'll be excited to try that out. I've been saving up my pack hourglasses or whatever for that set. Like at this point, I don't really need more reprints. Although there's some cards that would be cool, like the Crown Rare Professor Oak or Professor
Mm-hmm.
Research. Like that thing's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to see where the pocket goes. See if it gains enough support to break into any competitive play. But we'll cover it here and so many other things on the Battle Frontier.
Yep, absolutely. And if you are looking to engage with the show, we would love to have you in the comment section over on Spotify. Or I did actually have somebody at the local event I went to ask me about the show and asked me if, or mentioned to me that they would be more likely to engage with the show if we were present on YouTube more regularly. So I will have to now. I have a distinct reason to get back
Okay.
to uploading episodes to YouTube. So those will be going up starting with either this episode or maybe next week's, depending on how hectic things are for me. But we do thank everybody for listening. We do see all your comments, respond to them whenever we are able to. And if you want to engage with the show outside of those comment sections, you can follow John and I on socials. John is at johnorgel.bluesky or johnorgel.bsky.social. And you can follow me over on X at underscore Aaron underscore Curry. And you can follow the show also on X at BFPTCG pod. And again, we thank you for all of your support and appreciate you listening. And we will come to you guys next week with more news and results with another episode of The Battle Frontier.